really a missional question. And it's missional because it's a shift from using our building as a central symbol, which many of us want to come back to. But it's really, how do we reach out to people that will have never come into our building and may never come into our building, but will go to a Facebook page, a live stream page, a YouTube page, a Twitch. There's all these new things I still have to learn. And that actually may build our mission of sharing the United Church of Canada's interpretation of the good news and connecting to people. So I think it's I know Brad had some stats, and Richard probably could speak to it too, about how there's been a huge increase in at least our three churches' connections, a growth in YouTube subscribership, and then also in Facebook followings. And so I think it's really it's going to change us. There's already stats saying that this is changing us, and so it's something we need to respond to.
Okay, thanks, Trevor. Richard, anything to add? Or
yeah, I think we know that even as we plan to get back together as congregations in our churches, there will be some people who feel uncomfortable about that. And we will continue to want to be able to connect to them. So one of the steps we've been taking is, how do we actually handle live streaming for people at home, and at the same time put on a worship service for people that might be attending in the sanctuary. We're not doing that yet, but we're doing the technology planning to be able to do that. The other to address the missional issue, we have in the range of 320 to 350 computers that connect to our worship service every week. Now, our sanctuary only holds about 200 people, and there are 350 computers. And we know that a number of people, families and so on, will gather around the computer to watch the service. And we also know that this has gone coast to coast. People connect with their families in other parts of the country and tell them to tune in at a specific time or send them the link. And our reach in terms of the number of people that are exposed to our worship service has gone up substantially during this time. Now, they don't all watch at exactly 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. They may tune in 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon or some other time. But over the course of a number of days following the service, there's in the range of 320 to 350 people or computers that will tune in. So the reach we found is really quite substantial and continues to be strong right through the summer and into the fall.
hey, but thank you, Richard and Brad. Brad, I think you're muted. Okay. There you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brad. It's a pleasure to be with you all and talking about live stream. For us, the main piece that was when we were looking to going online and connecting everything, and because everything happened so quickly, was about community. And what was the one thing that we could do to really connect with everyone was through worship. And so having the live stream ministry really brought everyone back in a short way. And I mean, we started with the framework of being right, just, broadcasting from the kitchen table with a borrowed iPad and a camera. And we've moved since then. But as it's continued to grow, that's become during this COVID time, that worship service has become really important for everybody. And I think that for us has been something we've known our numbers. I think Trevor and Richard also mentioned something similar, but one of the things we found is that our numbers are greater than what they were for that if we had in-person worship. So that was one of the stats that we've been finding, is that the numbers that we have for Sunday, even though the live views on a Sunday might be low, or that the actual views for worship overall each week are generally, we have a larger number of people there. So, and that's one of the pieces that that we're now just starting to address, because we're a smaller church. We're not like some of the larger churches with different, and so we have a smaller budget and things. So that was important for us to not only define, but also how do we then move that into the connect with those people. And that's what we're doing next, was to talk about, well, can we do memberships and baptisms and all those different pieces, and what does that mean for us? So all those great questions.
Okay. Thank you all for that. And can you tell us briefly how your church offering worship online has evolved since since last March? And Brad, why don't we start with you? And we decided they'd have 3 minutes or less to do this, so I'm going to time you because we could all probably talk each an hour about how worship has changed. But anyway, okay, sorry, Brad.
Gonna put a clock up?
And yeah, well, no, it'll be brief, and I'll be brief. For us, one of the key pieces, and I mentioned this before, is that we started with a borrowed iPad and a camera to start our live stream, and that was pretty. And that's how we started. And one of the things that's been helpful for us, that each time we've learned new things as we've gone on. And how that involvement has gone is we've moved from being at the kitchen table offering, and then we found a more of a worship spot as we went along, and then as the COVID times changed and we moved from out of the side of the house, in the summer we decided to do different locations. So with the different worship, because our system that we have is very portable, and we also are looking at content recording. That was another thing we discovered, is that the worship doesn't have to be broadcast live. There can be different pieces. So it's really, we're looking now, we've moved from a live worship to possibly some live, some recorded. And so there's multiple pieces now to worship. That was a new discovery. So over the summer, we traveled. We had worship from some parks at different viewpoints in Calgary. We did it from Camp Consota, and twice, mind you, at Camp Consota. And then actually because we were slowly moving back into the congregation, so back to the steps at Northminster. And then then we came back inside the worship space. And I cannot tell you how wonderful that was, the feedback we received from the congregation about being able to see the church itself and being able to worship. And I'm here in the church because I want to kind of give you a context of that, is that echo. You might be able to hear it. That is one of the drawbacks of having no people here, is that, so that is another challenge. And so all those different kind of things. Oh, and my last point I'm going to mention, because of our building, none of the plugs inside the sanctuary, except for 2 in the entire sanctuary out of 23, are grounded. So that brings a whole different piece.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Brad. You may also want to ask them at some point, but basically they've been using for their cameras used iPhones.
Yeah.
I
think it's really neat what Brad's doing in Northminster, from like what, less than $1,000, would you say?
Well, when we started, because one of the things we wanted to be able to do was basically an easy system that multiple volunteers could use, so that we can sign up to our live stream either directly through an iPhone, and record and use another iPhone to do, and then have one control it, use all the graphics, all that sort of stuff. Or we can use an iPad. What I did was actually I set everything up here so you actually folks can see. There's our church iPad that we use to stream, and then that's the kind of that's streaming live from here. And then I think this is no, the other side. Here we go. And there's some of the cameras that we use just right over here, and those are actually live cameras that are going in. And it's a bigger system, but if I switch out the cameras, you can see how the change in the TV in the background there, that's now taking, so it's easy as just, we wanted something with ease, but also still something strong enough that could go from, like I said, from, you know, the kitchen table to now it's expanded to being here and we're using the same program.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. And Trevor.
I was going to share my screen just so you got some pictures. So I'll be quick too. Can you see this?
Sure. Yep.
So we switched from our sanctuary right away. We've been live streaming since 2010. We might get between 25 people on live stream before then. We went to YouTube and Facebook. So I just want to give you really quickly, a little background is that with live stream, you had your camera and microphone, you have a capture card, you have something that encodes it, and then it sends it in a program, it sends it out to Facebook. So, you know, you'll have capture, produce streaming software, which you'll see in all our packages or coding equipment. So you have to capture your video, you have to produce it, and you have to stream it. So all three of us have different as those things just to help you understand live streaming. So in McKillop, our system is we have two cameras. This camera is a PTZ, and it's like your old security cameras. They've got so good, you don't need the fancy camcorders anymore. We have a second camera that we bought 4 years ago, and it's almost out of date, but we can still use it. And there's a board there that helps me or whoever's speaking you can put things up there to read from. These little boxes here, this capture box and black magic box is what captures your video code and puts it into your computer. And we have 3 computers. Some of them are really old iMacs. One of them is 2009. It still does the work you need to. So you don't always need to buy new equipment. One of them is for, you know, we call it, we're Mac. So it's Keynote. It has all our graphics, our pre-recorded videos, like Brad was talking about, content that's already done. And we have one computer that's like your TV station. This uses Wirecast, and a volunteer runs this, and they put it all together. And then we have another computer that lets us monitor our YouTube and Facebook channels and live chat with people in case there are problems, because, well, there will be problems sometimes. And then we have a soundboard that captures everything. It's just a little 8-channel soundboard. And then we have, for the presenter, it's called a confidence screen. The presenter can actually see everything that's coming up before, so they don't lose track, or the minister, however you want to say it. And then one of the things we've learned is we have a backup mic system that's hidden in our area, because mics will fail. And so you can quickly grab that. And so this is what it looks. We have some lights. Like I said, we moved to a studio model, which makes it feel a lot more intimate. And that's our experiment. I guess everybody's innovating, experimenting. And then you can turn it around, and we can change the you know, it's not, you can see we have tech, but it's not high tech. And then finally, we're moving into another system, and this one here is Tricaster, but it's for a portable studio. So there's lots of ways you can do it, and this just shows us that when the COVID came, we moved into a studio and moved our technology and cobbled a lot together. So that's what's happening at McKillop.
Okay, thanks, Trevor. And Richard.
Yeah, literally we closed our church on March the 15th. We did not have service that Sunday. All the news was saying don't want to do this, so we immediately switched into kind of an online mentality. And the minister, who is quite tech savvy, did the service for March 23rd on her iPhone or an iPad, and from her living room, and recorded it, and then edited it together in iMovie, a very simple little editing program that comes standard with Mac computers, and then published it to YouTube. So it was a pre-recorded service. It had no music, or we, on a couple of occasions, we might have used some commercial music with permission, but it was basically the minister recording it on a phone or on an iPad. And not about a month and a half later, we decided to get into this in a little bigger way, and we moved our videoing into the sanctuary so that people could get a sense of being in the church. And on a Tuesday afternoon, I would go with a video camera, and I would video the minister doing the welcome, minister doing the prayers, the minister doing the sermon, all of the pieces that would need to get edited into a finished video that represented the total service. And I've done a bunch of photography work over the years and video editing, so I would put the video edit together using Final Cut Pro, which is an Apple product, kind of a professional video editor. And the other component that was kind of unique for us was how we added music. We had somebody in the choir that was interested in doing music mixing. And so we would record a bass track, if you like, of piano and a vocal of the hymns that we wanted to do for the coming Sunday. And we would send that out to literally every member of the choir. Now, not every member participated, but we would have 20, 25 voices where people would put headphones on, listen to the track that we had sent them, and record their part, their singing part, into a phone or into an iPad or into a computer. And all of those individual files, 20, 25 of them, would be sent to one individual who would compile all of that into something that sounded just like a choir, 20 voices all singing at the same time. They were using a program called Audacity, which is an audio editor, and Audacity is free. So it was, and relatively easy for people to learn how to use. So we taught some others to do that. And that's what we're doing, we continue to do that every week. We record 2 or 3 music pieces with 20 to 25 voices. That gets sent to me, and then I put that into the final video package as a pre-recorded component, and I'll lay in images and I'll put the lyrics over top of the music as well, so people at home can see that and perhaps sing along. So the pre-recorded service was made up of the components that we recorded on that Tuesday afternoon and the music that was pre-recorded and assembled and edited in Final Cut. And then in the last month and a half, we've gone into a live streaming mode, and that caused us to add to our equipment quite substantially. Much of the stuff that we needed to do this, because I had done years and years of video and photography work, I had a lot of it. There were a couple of little pieces that we had to get. One of the things was the capture card. So if you try and connect a camera to your computer, you can't do it. The HDMI connection on your computer is an HDMI output, not an input. And you need a video capture card to convert from HDMI to USB. And Trevor showed in his pictures the ones that he uses. And I'm just going to switch here to that. And this is called an ATEM Mini. It is a video switcher, and it basically has in it 4 of those capture devices that I can send 4 separate signals into this box, and I can switch back and forth between them very easily. And they basically contain the video capture equipment. And then that takes that and then moves it to the computer where we can stream from the computer out to YouTube. And we use YouTube for our streaming. We send everyone in the congregation a link to a YouTube channel, and they get an email on Sunday morning, and they just click on the link, and the service opens up on their computer screen. So that's kind of what we're doing. There's a lot of technical challenges associated with that. As we've in the last few weeks, we've been experimenting with what do we do when the congregation returns, and it's actually reasonably straightforward to just live stream. But if you want to live stream and actually have images and music and in the sanctuary at the same time, that creates another set of challenges around delays and echoes and a whole lot more wires. So that's pretty much where we are currently.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Richard, for that. I just want to acknowledge some of the comments in the chat here, and Deborah is saying our church service attendance increased dramatically when we started using Zoom, but has not drastically reduced. Could be many reasons for this, different options to watch, etc. So yeah, it's great finding different ways to and that we can tune in at different times. And Sue, I think with the weather, folks have chosen to Zoom instead of coming to the sanctuary. Yeah, it certainly gives us another option. We did our 4-H meeting last night on Zoom, and some people were at the hall, and but most ended up showing up on Zoom. And Yop, you were doing outside worship over the summer, right until Thanksgiving, and now back to the cell phone and uploading to YouTube. And Trevor's saying here that probably they're going to be doing live streaming into early 2021 at least. Okay. Yeah, so this is Arlene is raising an issue. Is how do you reach out to the older people who do not have computers?
Well, at McKillop, we were doing this before COVID, but it takes additional software and a volunteer or a paid person. But we produce DVDs of the service or other online demand content we produce, and even CDs now, because some older people don't even use DVDs. And we also have bought portable DVD players that we volunteers will take to nursing homes and other places, and the people, it's a one push DVD player with a screen on it, and so they get to keep it until they don't want it. And then we started just producing audio too. That was our solution, because sometimes some people are never going to buy a computer, and they don't have internet at all the nursing homes either yet, at least in Lethbridge area. And so sometimes we've sent up to like 25, maybe even 30 different copies of DVDs and CDs. Plus we send out paper bulletins and a bunch of stuff like that too.
Yeah, I know some people commenting and responding to that question there with Sue doing the mail outs and drop offs, and and Deborah has been delivering the bulletin and the message to folks. And I will send out to you afterwards that there's a link to the tech survey, and there were a lot of different varieties of ways that people were reaching out, whether it was the printed form, keeping in touch by telephone, and there was one church that I think had some used iPads that they were using.
Yeah, Shelley, we've been looking at the opportunity perhaps to buy some iPads and distribute them to nursing homes. Now, the nursing homes would need a Wi-Fi connection, but we can set the iPad up and put a big icon on the screen that would allow them to pretty easily connect to a worship service, maybe with a little bit of help, around making sure it was turned on and plugged in and all of those kind of things. But the technology is, in these days is easily accessible, and with a little bit of training, we've been quite surprised. We've gone to people's homes or talked to them over the phone to help them make sure that they've got the right software on an iPad so that they can click on the button Sunday morning and connect to service. So it does take some work. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of time and effort to make it happen, but it is worthwhile trying to reach out and connect that way.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a variety of different ways that people have been using that works for them, and Maria and Carstairs, some of our techie folks invite senior cohort members and sit together during live Zoom worship services.
Yeah,
and,
Good. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, Colleen at Central, we do weekly mail outs with a letter from the minister and a weekly bulletin. And yeah.
There's I think one of the things there's a common theme there, and it's all pastoral. One of the biggest thing that our COVID learning is for all of us has been everything has changed, and so we're working differently. But one of those, the theme though that's seen about this thread though, which is really significant, is how are we being pastoral and reaching out to those that may not have technology. We've actually been surprised by some of the folks that are senior, and our oldest person that's online for worship is over 90 years old. They're 92, and they're the one that signed up and got themselves going. But we also have others that they have no interest or they don't know how or whatever. So that's part of what they looked at is those mailouts are so important, and those calls, and being that community connectedness. And I just love reading the comments here of what people are putting. And that's something that we can all take. That's our takeaway. That's great.
Yeah, I'm going to say this for our family, for Brad and I, we're both working in technology and in that world, but we haven't been able to get our mother to go online, and there are people that are older than our mother that are online, but there have been other ways that her church has been connecting with her, and we're grateful for that. Yeah, and Brenda with the Monday night study group has 30 people signing in, and you've done training for people on the iPad and iPhone, and yeah.
Just quickly, we have members from Comox, BC, Kamloops, BC, and Toronto that come on a regular basis. It really has been good. We finished session number 6 last night, and then already we have our PowerPoint and whatever uploaded on our website. So it's been, I would say, a very successful program.
Okay, That's
That's
great. So,
wonderful. I
yeah.
was wondering, one thing as we're doing Sunday morning, I'd also like to encourage us to innovate outside of Sunday morning. Like, I do think there is this opportunity to provide either live content or on-demand content from our different congregations, like these, like happening at Wallace, at St. David's with Brenda. It's yeah, there are all these opportunities that just that people will join. There's a hunger out there, and it doesn't have to always be on Sunday morning. It could be a Wednesday night or a lunchtime, and it doesn't have to be worship. This, what we're talking about, this live stream stuff, can work for a number of different modalities.
Yeah, and one of the things, we live out in Turner Valley, and so it was difficult for my daughter to be part of a youth group without involving driving at a distance. And yeah, so she's actually been able to join in a youth group because it was meeting online, and participate in activities. So that this actually grew an opportunity for us. And Yope doing the daily blog on the website, and I think I'm at 185 by now. And the bulletin, I send in the bulletin to our webmaster, and who is online, that's another Shelley. I send in the bulletin to and the webmaster an explanation of the readings and the sermon script, and then video the service. And folks can join with responses and prayers and listen to the music, which I've chosen for the day, and there has been amazing numbers who are connecting. So so one of the things is that it is interesting, like the three churches, our three folks have different kind of technology, but I was reading an article about it that well, we think that the tech is really important, and it can be in terms of sound and lighting, but that that actually for people, what's most important is is the content and how somebody's speaking to them. So and then Sue McDonald, we have a scrapbooking group that has been meeting every Wednesday since COVID came on scene. So a different way to meet, and you can still show what you're working on. And okay, and I guess a question for our panel here is, can you tell us about one time in these past few months where something didn't work and what you learned when that happened? Okay, I'm going to start with Richard.
This past Sunday. So you don't have to go very far back to find things that, you know, don't quite go as planned. As I said, we've been experimenting with how do you send audio and video to the sanctuary at the same time as you're sending audio and video out in a live stream. And this past Sunday, we actually established a little loop, because we have two soundboards. We have the soundboard that's in the sanctuary that's been there, and it captures microphones and so on. And we have a soundboard that sits in the control booth that we use to control the audio for the live stream. And somehow a little loop got set up between those, and we're still investigating it, but there was a horrible static that crept into the service and was very distracting. And I literally was tearing my hair out trying to figure out what was causing it, because it hadn't happened previously. And but things like that, the audio by far and away is the most challenging aspect of this. The video is reasonably straightforward as long as you've got, you know, a reasonably good camera or something that can capture the video. But capturing good audio is really difficult, and it has to do with where you place the microphones and how you actually bring that sound into the live stream. One of the things that if you go on YouTube and do some research around this, you'll find that there is a delay. And anytime you're using an HDMI signal, that signal is delayed versus the audio that you might be capturing at the same time. And so if you're not careful about how you do that, you can actually set up the very familiar problem where you see people's lips moving, or you hear the sound and you see their lips moving, you know, a second later or a half a second later, and it's really quite distracting. There are ways to fix that, but there are way more ways to actually fall into the trap and have that happen. So managing audio is difficult, and it's worth taking the time to be sure that you've researched it and you're doing that correctly.
Yeah. And Trevor?
Well,
I was just going to say that one of the bonuses of having these kind of conversations is we had, as Richard was talking, and Brenda from St. David said, we had that issue on Sunday also.
yeah.
Very common. Yep.
Yeah.
And it happens on Zoom. If you watch your lips moving, you don't hear the sound in sync with the video. And that's an artifact of the way sound doesn't take as much time to process. Video takes a little bit more time. So the video is going to be delayed relative to the sound.
Yeah. Trevor?
Well, yeah, I think we expect every week something, a little glitch, to be honest. Because you have so many components sometimes. Just like last week too. We actually get together as a team an hour before the service and run through everything and actually troubleshoot everything and make sure everything's working. And even after doing that, and our tech person checks the links to, like, we live stream on Facebook and YouTube because it gives more options. Not everybody likes Facebook, not everybody likes YouTube. And so everything was tested. And one of the phrases I have to use for myself now is just act like everything's normal, no matter what your tech crew is doing. And so we're about to live stream, and for some reason the YouTube connection does not work. I mean, and so it's like we did everything right. We did the pre-checks, and suddenly it's not working. And so we record to our hard drive all our services in case something like that happens. So then we can upload a service if we do. It happens occasionally. And so it's sort of like I have to just, I'm the one, I was one doing the service. So you have to act like there's not a problem and let the tech crew do their stuff and get it done. And then, so we had it on Facebook, but not YouTube. And we realized later that possibly the tech people were experimenting with our new system, and that disrupted the YouTube link. And they figured it out, but there's all these complexities, and sometimes, sometimes a camera doesn't work right, even though it's worked for 6 weeks in a row. We call them tech zombies or gremlins that creep in and out. And it really helps to restart all your technology and your computers, because bugs grow in these programs and technologies over time if you don't shut them down and turn them back on too.
So one of the blessings of having things go wrong is that we learn a lot in the process of this, and yeah. And Brad?
Oh, we've had lots of fails, and they're always fun and always stressful. And one of the things we've learned, the biggest thing we've learned is, in the beginning it was so stressful because, oh my goodness, we've lost the signal and all these different pieces. But and now we're if something does happen, we're ready by, we can send a signal out by saying technical difficulties, something like that. And one example I mentioned before, this is an older building. So the plugs are not up to par. And so we had a sound issue one of their first Sundays back inside the church. And it turned out to be that because the plugs weren't grounded, it created a hum through the cords. And then that sent the hum through the microphones, and it knocked out the wireless microphones that Reverend Nancy was using, Nancy was using. So that was something something that we had to learn because we didn't know, and then we went through it. Another piece behind that was we didn't really test everything all together before we started to use it. We had tried different pieces, but not everything all together. So that was also our own fault, was that sense of testing, are we testing before you start out? And a lot of our errors are usually when we're adding new pieces, whether there's new microphones or new connections. That's some part of the errors. But when we've moved from being stressed out about it to being problem solvers. And that was one of the best, been really helpful for us, is that errors will happen, and that's just a part of it. And one of the things that you'll see in the Northminster feed is if on our Facebook, if you see a service and there's no comments in it, that's probably because we had an error and we've actually uploaded the entire service back up, because Switcher records in the background the entire service. So what we can do is just take that video and then upload it, and we can remove those errors that might have happened.
Yeah, and so sometimes testing can be kind of boring, but it certainly pays off, doesn't it? But the beauty of technology is that there's often a workaround. It's just figuring out what that is. One of the things Arlene is asking is for those churches who do not have Wi-Fi, is there support available from the region to help us set it up? Would like to have worship from the sanctuary. Actually, Trevor and Richard, because the community of faith support has learned something on terms of cell service. Anyway, we had a conversation on that.
Maybe before we talk about using cell service, one of the reasons we started the way we did was because the internet connection at the sanctuary was not reliable, and we've since upgraded that with the internet supplier to make it a little bit more reliable. But the pre-recorded services, of course, don't require you to have an internet connection. You just pre-record, and then you can load them up to YouTube from some other location where internet is available. The second point I wanted to make about that is that if you're live streaming, it is very much preferable to connect using an Ethernet cable hardwired rather than using a wireless Wi-Fi connection. Wi-Fi connections are notoriously unreliable. Ethernet provides you a faster connection and a more reliable connection. So if you're going to live stream, you want to take a look at not just Wi-Fi capability, but going back to the routers, and the routers will have ports on them for Ethernet connection, and you want to hardwire your computer that you're using for live streaming into the system, and that'll give you a much more reliable signal for live streaming.
Okay, Arlene, was that helpful? Okay, yeah. Yes, okay, he typed in there. Okay, that's great. So from High River United, for many, I suspect this is a very overwhelming territory. I would imagine that the region may now have, with each of you, a consulting team that can be contacted for advice, tech, wisdom, problem solving, setup, etc. So yeah, I haven't asked these three people if they'd be willing to do that, but but one of the things that we did, so we can talk more of that right here, which is one of the things we did talk about was, and that came up in the survey, was having just sessions where people could sign in by Zoom and talk with people that have experience doing this and can offer ideas back and forth. So that's also an option, is that we just have Zoom sessions where people can sign in and ask questions. And
I think one of the things about this technological stuff is there's no right way. In terms of cameras and programs and how to stream it, like you can do thousands of configurations, and they all have their advantages and disadvantages because of limitation of technology. So yeah, I think we have to allow ourselves to do research, like to do some really good research for your congregation and look at the price points, and also what works for if you have volunteers or not, or someone that's technical, or if it needs to be really easy. I mean, so I think there's lots on the internet how to do that, and I think all three of us provide some links too. So there's not a right way. I hope that's, all three of us have innovated in different way.
Yeah, and at least in my case, we're mostly self-taught around this. The number of YouTube videos that I've watched from literally everywhere that provided some insight on how to do this is just staggering. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Some of it isn't particularly good. Some of it isn't particularly practical for your particular application, because there is multiple ways of doing this. But I did a lot of research around different options, what kind of cameras you needed, all of that kind of stuff. And there is just a tremendous amount of information out there specific for churches. If you just put in the search feature in YouTube about live streaming for churches, a whole bunch of stuff will come up that can give you some clues about the equipment that you need. People will do comparisons of one kind of piece of equipment versus another, and all kinds of tips on how to do the connections and so on to make it all work. And you can spend very little, or you can spend a whole lot, and you've got to decide kind of where your price point is and what do you really need for your particular application, because it's quite easy to go down a path and spend way more than you need to spend in order to marginally accomplish relatively little more.
yeah, and when Richard's talking off to the side there, he's actually talking directly to all our faces.
I am.
His camera.
My camera's there. There. Wait a minute, there. And my screen that I can see you on is slightly off.
Yeah, he's in. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that we want.
Sorry, I was just responding to a comment, but
Yeah.
But one of I think one of the things to remind yourselves is one is the budget and different things. When you're doing your research, the best thing now is check out other United Churches online and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Wild Rose just recently went online and seeing what they're doing, because they have got some camera setups. They actually just set them up and they do the pieces on the and they record their PowerPoints and their musicians, and it's great because they just set up their cameras and go, and it's fabulous. I love looking at their worship service. I also look at I look at different services across Canada as well. So then you go across Canada, then you can go to Oak Bay United Church in Victoria and see what they're doing. And their new music team, oh my goodness, so good. And then you kind of go along the way, and then there's a fellow in Ottawa. It's Peter Woods. He does a jazz service every Thursday night, and so to check out that. And then you'll, once you start looking, you actually can see some of the technology they're using. Rothwell United Church over in Ottawa is another one. And then you can actually go as far as over in Newfoundland and check out some of the services there and see what some of the United Churches are there doing. And always check and see what they're doing. Are they using, are they just sitting back? Is their camera their camera looks good? One of the things I love looking at McKillop's, because we can hear Trevor's voice now, but hearing Trevor's voice during worship is really calming. I'm complimenting things, but that's because they've really done well on their audio and different pieces. And I love it, because you can sit back and Trevor's one of those people for me that I can sit back and listen to quite easily. So, and that's again, going to technology about, that goes back to that they have different pieces that smooths out his sound and does those different pieces. So when you're researching, check out different churches across Canada that are doing it, because you'll learn so much. And that was one of the things that we have is for me has been learning. And we're also a smaller church, so like I know that Richard and Trevor, Trevor they have a history, and they also have a great deal of technology, and Richard has also some technology that we couldn't afford within our own congregation because of being a smaller congregation. So our setup is quite different. So that there are differences in there. So but and so that's another piece to remember as well is what can you spend, and if you're using technology just is either donated. For example, a lot of our iPhones that we use for worship, we have a 4-camera worship we can do we have 4 iPhones. 3 of the 4 are donated. So that's another piece that's to the pie. And same with our iPad, that was through donations. We purchased an iPad for the congregation. But that's predominantly most of our technology right there. So those are some of the pieces when you're researching, is to kind of see what other people are using, and also reach out and ask questions to those folks. Like you can, Trevor, I think Richard, you're using Ecamm Live for your live stream connection.
Correct.
There's a laptop. Now Richard's got some amazing things behind the scenes, but you can just use Ecamm Live on a desktop to broadcast. Yeah, and exactly. Trevor, you're using to connect. You're using you have multiple pieces, but you have a real a great studio, and I love the lighting to your setup, and so if your church is looking towards that, you really need to look at Trevor's, because they've really worked hard and have really great experience there, and then look around just the province. So those were just the comments I just wanted to make on those pieces. Just
we've done Zoom live, and then we use a program called Wirecast to go live on Sunday. But like we did a Zoom communion service and everything was working. And then suddenly they muted all the participants, like, you do in Zoom, so you don't have, and then my mic wouldn't come through. So what happened was my partner from home was calling. She called me on my phone, and I had to talk through my phone. It picked it up through her computer at our home while I was trying to break bread and share the elements. And so, that we don't know why it was. So yeah, it's just, I love what Brad's saying. Just experiment, innovate, see what other people are doing, steal their ideas, steal their content if you ask them, or how they do it. There's so much great stuff that is happening right now in the United Church of Canada, in Alberta and across. And
one of the things that we may want to do is, and Shelley, just to kind of just reaching out, is that maybe the region invest into, say, an online, like one of those Facebook groups where we put in on, live stream, United Church live stream group. And this would be a support group that'd be moderated either through Shelley or the others. And then we can put in other ideas and things that we're doing. Like, for example, Trevor, you just did a story that I think Nancy wants to do, and I want to see if we could borrow the slides for that, and then we could provide copyright to. Then we could connect to one another, or and because there's so many different ways that now define resources. Does everyone know that you can that the Strathys have every single one of their songs on video format? Yeah. So you just go to Strathy, Jim and Jean Strathy online, and they have their entire song portfolio all on videos for you to use.
A few of them I will get the sound and put a new video to, because their voices aren't matched up with their,
right.
Yeah.
And
a lot of them are really good.
Yeah, and same with Linnea Good. David Kai is another United Church musician. His music is available online if you want to search for him. Linnea Good, who I just said, she has a subscription service, like $60 a year. Then you have access to some of her written content, and also that which is if you want to invest in that. There is a ton of resources. Oh, the other thing I just found out about was if you're part of the United Church of Canada Facebook group, Dartmouth United Churches, they got together, and they have 90 YouTube videos, like everything from Lego scripture verses and everything else. And I don't know if some of you've seen it, and kids crafts and everything like that, all online. And they said, hey, everyone, we would like you to use it.
Can you put that link in the chat?
Yes, I'm actually not on my laptop, my thing, but I'll send it to Shelley, who can post it into the group later, as a part of that chat. But anyways, I just want to kind of just offer some of those resources so that we can, when we're all together, we can share some of those resources, because a lot of us, we're all using Voices United, we're all using those different things. So what are ways we can do that?
Well, Richard has a whole bunch of videos that were produced from their choir.
Yeah, exactly. I think I mentioned that the way we do this is all of the voices record. Each individual records their own voice while they're listening to a soundtrack that we record and send out to them, and then that comes in, and we lay images and text to that. And I can actually just show you how that looks. So this is from a couple of Sundays ago. Now, you may not be able to hear the audio because I haven't have it hooked in. So we have produced a library that's available on Google Drive, and Shelley, I'll make sure that you have the link to that. But if you want to, they're all done as individual little movie files, MP4 files, and you can pull them out and use them in your service. And there's probably 70 or 80 pieces, largely from Voices United and More Voices, where the choir has recorded, and I put the text and the images on top of the music, and you can just download them and use them as you need to.
Yeah, so Richard has put that together. One of the things that and I appreciate, Brad, that you're suggesting a Facebook group, and that seems to be getting some traction in the chat here, because we've been trying to figure out how to share some resources. Some people have put together some amazing videos that can be shared, and Hillhurst has compiled their material also, and is willing to share that also. So we can start with a Facebook group. We can also have a page on the website. Yeah, United Church live stream group. Okay. And
I only suggest that we do our own. Is sometimes I'm a part of several kind of streaming groups, and all of a sudden you get different it's good when you're talking about technology, but sometimes the theology pieces kind of get the, you know, the can be a bit mixed, and so sometimes you don't want to get into those kind of conversations because all I want to talk about is just, you know, that. But within something that's unique for us to do would be great, because we all share a common hymn book, which and some of us, you know, share a lot of the similar artists, and we're, you know, some are on lectionaries, some aren't, but then so those shared resources that we're using, because it's fun actually when you're, again, like I said earlier, but when you go across section across the United Church of live stream services to see, oh, they're doing the same scripture verse today too, and some are using, you know, different videos, some are using people that to read the service, some have taken a Lego actors to do the scripture, and, you know, some have doing a voiceover, and so it's neat to kind of see what people are doing. But if we're posting those and sharing those resources, then that could help out, especially if you're new to live stream, to be able to access and use those resources.
Okay. Thank you, Brad. And that's what we'd like to do. And so one of the things that we can set up is to have have basically a tech time and come and talk about what you're working on, or issues that you're facing. But we can also have that Facebook group to have conversations here. Feel free to turn your mic on and say this, but how many are just doing worship in Zoom right now? Okay, Maria has her hand up. Okay, and Brenda at St. David's. Okay, so you're doing it and some.
Because I've got the light behind me.
Okay. And okay, and there. And Arlene. Yeah.
Yes, it's being done out of a home because we don't have Wi-Fi.
Okay. So you're okay. And High River is Zoom all the way. Just Balzac, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So Balzac is working towards getting onto Zoom to do their services, and I've wanted to set this up for them, but can somebody volunteer that would meet with the Balzac folks on how they've moved to Zoom?
Would that be a question for next week? Because it's a Zoom.
Yeah.
And unless, but High River, I see High River, David, I think you're saying that, is that way you guys can connect?
Zoom all the way. Okay.
You're just starting soon, Rita?
So
we're transitioning into that. Currently what we do is we send out an email with my message, both in audio and script form, as well as YouTube links for the music. And we're just now moving into transitioning into a Zoom worship service. We use Zoom for other things like Bible study and coffee time and all that kind of thing. But we're just gradually moving in right now.
Yeah, I could set up a Zoom meeting with you, Rita, and share our experience with you if you would like me to do so.
Sure, that would be great.
Okay.
It has to be extremely simple. I appreciate all of the information about different cameras and things like that.
Ours is very simple.
Our reality is that it has to be extremely simple at this point because we are not using the building. So that creates some boundaries. But I will give Maria and High River a call. Thanks for your offers of help. I appreciate all the conversation, I really do. That's the direction we're going. But the reality is right now that we have chosen to keep our building closed. So it has to be from the kitchen table, so to speak.
Yeah, actually, Rita, we decided to keep our church closed as well. Yeah. But there are like 5 maximum of us. I mean, me, the musician, and sometimes the scripture reader, but sometimes we also do the readings through Zoom. We do it from the sanctuary, even though we are closed officially.
Okay.
So that's, we will talk.
Okay.
I will catch up with all of you, but thanks for the offers. And I really want to encourage, I like the idea of sharing resources and all those different things. And I think we have some things we could offer as well from Balzac, even though we're not online quite yet in that respect.
Yeah. So I'm glad we could make those connections here, and it really is. I'm learning from you all in terms of this, just jumping in and trying it, and it's okay if we make mistakes. At least we're at least we're learning, and we're doing something.
You're going to make them anyway, so you might as well jump in and just let it happen.
Yeah. And God is always offering us grace, and then even more grace. So that's I don't want to keep you folks beyond 12 noon, and so just a couple of things. 1% had a question in terms of donations, and so I want to throw out in terms of what our panel is doing in terms of donations, encouraging donations, how you're doing that electronically and otherwise. Trevor?
I think, well, at least my experience is that sometimes when people see what, well, a couple things. People like really good audio and really good video when you go online. And if you can invest a little more, if you think you can, that really helps people connect. And so sometimes you just have to ask your congregation. It doesn't hurt. All they can do is say no. I mean, but sometimes you just ask, this is what we're hoping. Are you willing to donate so that our mission and ministry is enhanced? And you never know. Some people that don't give to we've had people that don't give to our operating budget, but when they see a project like this, they'll give, $5,000, $5,000. So the other thing is sometimes look for grants. That was a little more work, but what you do is you tie your ministry into community outreach, and there's lots of grants. And right now, like for instance, the federal government through the New Horizons Seniors grants are actually looking for nonprofits that will help seniors connect in their community, either through what we're doing here or through other technological things like buying iPads and other things. You can apply for small grants. I think we've missed it, but there might be another one in the spring. Also, like Seeds of Hope is a United Church grant. So my attitude is if we don't ask, we never know. And you never know. And sometimes it's another way is to use some older bequests that are just tied up in your budget and have been sitting there for years. Why let that money not multiply? And use there's no use letting money sit in our accounts when we can be doing effective ministry too.
Yeah, and just okay. Yeah, and words of wisdom from High River, who said their video equipment just arrived. So we're about to dive in. And one thing we realized that at High River is that we're going to be with COVID for a while, and there's no rush to do it all at once, but there's time to work at this gradually and determine what approach works best for the congregation. And yeah, and a few people have to sign off to the next thing. I just want to let you know a couple of things that are happening. Next week we have the session just on using Zoom as not just, but using Zoom as a worship tool, and also for using it for meetings and for studies, and to push at that technology to use it and it's best. So we have Alan Buckingham and Mauricio from Alan Buckingham from Banff and Mauricio from the Chinookwins office. And then we will be offering a session on Anchor Person 101. So that's in terms of a lot of us were taught to talk to an audience that we can see, and when we're talking to a camera, we can't see that person. So we're going to have something on that, and we'll if people are interested in tech, the tech support, we'll set up just Zoom sessions specifically on that, where you can ask your questions. And so I think when I was asking about the donations, I was actually asking in terms of how are you encouraging donations? What you said was really good, because I'm glad you went that way.
Sorry, interpretation.
Yeah, and but one of the things is in terms of donations on is encouraging donations during this COVID time when you can't pass the offering plate. So ways that you are doing that at your churches. Brad, I think you folks started using an app from Tithely.
Yeah, it's good to kind of check out and see what other congregations are doing. You may want to visit different church websites and see what they're doing. We use Tithely as one option. Simons Valley United Church uses Tithely, and then they also use the Canada Helps for both donations and the other. There are fees. Tithely takes a fee, which the user themselves can do. Take over that fee, whereas Canada Helps charges the fee, and the user doesn't have the option, so it's just automatic and it doesn't go back to the church. So just wanted to those are kind of some options there. You can, some churches, like again, Simons Valley United Church has a specific email address so they can e-transfer money. And then the other ways of just inviting people to send their to regularly send their checks in. So if they're from home or that, and that could be built into part of your newsletters, your mailouts, and also your call-outs, use pastoral care calls, and to save, to when you're checking in to people and saying if you need help with your donations. I know, so for some visitors, they drop them in the church door to, like here at Northminster, they leave them here, and then they phone the church secretary to let them know that there's a check in the door waiting there. So there's different options available, but check out other churches' church websites and see what churches are doing. But those are some of the ways that I'm seeing that people are using.
Okay.
Oh, and talking about it on your online service too, making the regular offering time, and the reach out to people that are not a part of your community, but that can do. That's one of the other pieces we found is we're getting donations from outside of our church community, and that's because we've asked.
Okay, so making sure that the ask is part of your online worship service. Yep. Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay. Just before we close today, from our, I'm going to throw it out to the group here. Is there anything that anybody would like to add? Hear from the different churches online? Okay.
We're going to be playing it by ear because we have a new minister coming in next Sunday. Is his first Sunday with us. Murray Spear is coming to Wild Rose. So we've been moving to our live streaming, and our intent was to make it look as much like a real church service as possible. But as far as our direction in the future, I think we'll want to see where Murray wants to take this. And I appreciate all the ideas, especially the little bit about getting the information to our seniors, because as you say, they just don't have or are not comfortable with the technology. And just wanted to say thank you to all of you for putting this on. It's been very informative.
Yeah, and Don, the way you folks have started has been wonderful to see, and the way you've been able to connect Murray Spear in during your live stream has been awesome. I just love it, and even before that he's arrived, and Murray's tech savvy, so I'm excited for you folks and your new kind of ministry to come. Congratulations! Yeah.
Yeah, I think we took heed from Stephen Harper, who helped us get started here, and he said, you know, don't be worried. This is not TV quality technology that you need to worry about. Things are going to happen, and things aren't going to work, and just it's like an ordinary service. Things happen during the service. You just have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then that was good advice from Stephen. And Karen, I saw you unmuted yourself. Karen's also with Wild Rose.
Oh. Sorry, I think it happened when you unmuted all of us, Shelley, but I just wanted to thank you for putting this on. It was very informative to connect with so many people and have so many great ideas presented as well.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. And I see Karen is also asking about copyright. Richard is also a member of the Common Cup, and he actually got a bunch of information from one of his colleagues. So I can be sharing that through the newsletter, that information, but it's probably worth having a webinar kind of like this where we can be talking about copyright and how people occasional times that you run into problems. And that one would probably just be an hour.
Oh yeah. And Facebook and YouTube treat things totally different sometimes. What you think is copyrighted or not copyrighted. And I know one church in Lethbridge got banned from YouTube for some infringement. I mean, it is an issue when you do this live stream stuff.
Yeah, and then they just went to Facebook and had a lot of fun there. So it was
Facebook rules changed on October 1st of the copyright. So for example, Simons Valley, their service was muted after they played, after Donna Williams played Bach, which is not copyright.
Right.
But because the piece specifically was recorded by another musician on the piano, and that recording itself was copyrighted, thing. So that's up to when your administrator then has to be online and be able to like answer those copyright rules right away or right after the service, because then the service is blocked. And what do you do? And so that happened this past Sunday. So that's something to watch for. And YouTube is different because they'll still allow you to go and play the service, but it's they just say you can't monetize it. So it's just a different way of doing things.
Yeah, and then they'll put an ad up in your service to monetize what they think is copyright.
Yeah, and it's all done. If you actually think that there's somebody watching all of those YouTube things and actually making a determination about what's copyrighted and what's not, it's done by some kind of algorithm. And so if the algorithm picks up something that sounds like it's really professional, then they'll potentially slap a copyright infringement on it, even if it isn't. I use a whole bunch of, in our entries and exits to the service, a bunch of non-copyright music that I have a subscription for. And I occasionally see the little signal that says, you know, you're using copyrighted material here. Okay, this time, but you can't monetize it. And I know for a fact that it's not copyright material, it's material that I own. So you have to kind of be on top of that, because if it builds, they can do things to shut you down, basically. And
okay, yeah. I just want to catch one question. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to follow up on the copyright and have some good discussions. But I wanted to talk about one thing that was on my question list and came up. Someone sent me a private message. Is we've been talking about live streaming and pre-recording, but we've actually mostly been talking about live streaming. So somebody sent me a message about that. So tell me when tell us about when it's a good time to be live streaming versus when it's good to be pre-recording.
Well, we started with pre-recorded services, and they are, at least from my perspective, a lot less stressful. You have the opportunity to record and re-record if you don't like it. You can put it in a video editor and you can add titles, you can add lower thirds with people's names. There's all kinds of things that you can do with pre-recorded material. And all of the music that I was talking about is all pre-recorded material as well. So that's just, you know, I go into my basement and I open the video editor and I assemble the service with all of the pieces that have been pre-recorded. And then it just gets uploaded to YouTube in time for Sunday, and people are sent a link. So there's all kinds of advantages of doing pre-recorded material in terms of the quality that you're able to create and the flexibility that you have. You are missing, however, the opportunity of people feeling to be a part of the service and things happening live. But as soon as you make the decision to go live, your technology requirements go up. You have to have reliable internet service. You've got to start worrying a little bit more about sound and so on. So it is more technically difficult to live stream, and we've decided to do that. But personally, I really liked just being able to pre-record things and then go and squirrel away and assemble it into a service that was, you know, high quality and
yeah,
but it's not live.
And then I think Brad's kind of had that you folks kind of rotate, like sometimes your volunteers aren't available, and so you've opted to do pre-recording. So you've Brad, there's been some flexibility on that.
Yeah, pre-recording is we call it content recording, because we moved from, one of the biggest things is we realized is that worship happening on Sunday morning is really important. So whether you go live or whether you're recording pieces, it doesn't really matter, because worship going live on Sunday mornings for us at 10:30 is part of our ritual, part of our community connections, and that's what's important. And that's part of our learning that's happened. So now what we try to do is make that as seamless as possible, so that when we do recording for worship, it looks like something that happens on a Sunday, even though it might be pre-recorded. And the only way you can really now tell is if Nancy is in the prayers of the people. If Nancy comes, says, okay, I see some prayers in the comments, then you know that Nancy's live. If she doesn't, then she's actually live in the comments, and she's private messaging people and doing those pieces. So it's a different way of being live per se. But that ritual of being together on Sunday morning and being as a community, that's the important piece. We have other programs that we do, like Supper Church, which we used to have all together, but now we pre-record that piece as well in some of our Sunday school programming. So pre-recording, which we call content recording, is now something regularly that we do as a part of that. I wanted to add one other piece. Don McIntosh mentioned it about Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper from Simons Valley United Church, because he's set up the systems, the setups for Hillhurst United Church and also Simons Valley United Church, is a person to reach out to if it's another resource. Ann Yates Lethbridge over at Hillhurst United Church is also, if you're in Calgary or even if you're outside, she constantly puts it out there. Hey, I can help out, just let me know. And at one time when we had an issue, she's like, hey, just come. And it was like 9:30 at night. She's like, we were having some tech issues. And she said, okay, just come on over, take this iPad, we have at church, we have some extra, and then go to it. So she's gonna go 100% all in to support you. But so just so you know, there's other people out there as well, and I'm just naming 2 names that can be helpful for you to reach out to. Okay.
Yeah, and Anne Yates LaBerge has offered to do a Google Analytics workshop for us, which it's a lot of us are busy on looking at the content, but this helps us look at the kind of the back end. And Brenda's just asking to repeat the names.
Stephen Harper from Simons Valley United Church. And it's just Stephen at simonsvalleyuc.com. And then the other name is Ann Yates LaBerge at Hillhurst United Church. And you can just go to Hillhurst United Church, and she's the director of operations there.
I'd say one thing about live stream is that it's different than Zoom because you're not seeing everybody. And so those are some of the advantages and disadvantages. But if you do like even live stream or on-demand content like on Facebook or YouTube, one of the things you might want to consider is getting a moderator for either one of them that actually starts conversations and checks in with people in the comment section, so that you can actually start building community where people might, I know it's depending on your how you like technology. Some people will start talking about, they'll make references to scripture reading or messages, or say what they like or don't like, and that's good. And you have someone that starts to connect people. We found at McKillop, we have people we don't have no idea who they are, and they're saying hi in the comment section. And it's sort of like when you used to have in-person worship services. If someone says hi, you don't want them to feel ignored. You want someone to respond to that and say, welcome, we're glad you're joining us online. Do you need anything? And so that's another thing that's really important to start to build when you do these things, especially when it's not Zoom, is someone's designated, that's their job. You can set the administrative things in YouTube live chat or Facebook, and it builds community.
Yeah, so it is so that also is another area that our subgroup has been talking about is when people leave comments or encouraging comments, and some of our evangelical brothers and sisters are like they have appointed actually people that are on there, and they've actually trained them to be encouraging conversations to be going alongside of as the chat conversation has been happening. But Trevor has a funny story related to the chat function.
What's that?
Was one of your folks commenting to stop the chatter?
Oh yeah, when we were doing this really early on, somebody I think that was of a more senior generation told everybody to stop chatting because it was disrespectful to talk during the worship service. And it was online, so stop making chats. You're supposed to be listening to the worship service. Don't talk among yourselves.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of these cultural shifts, is that when we're online, we really do appreciate to have the chat function with people commenting. They're interacting, and people can feel that they're more a part of things.
And they're building relationships with each other, which we can't do because we can't come together on Sunday morning. So how are you doing? And yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're at 12:10, and I want to thank you all for being here. And before I sign off, I want to say no, before I sign off, so I'm going to send to you the we did put the links in of the resources that our panel put together, but I'm going to email you that, and when it's available, I'll email you the link to the recording also. And next week is the session on Zoom. If you're interested in that, you can sign up for that, and I'll be sending out an evaluation form to you also to add your comments. Is there anything else anybody wants to add or say? Okay, well, I want to thank Trevor and Richard and Brad for taking your time to be with us today, and also to share your knowledge and putting together the written resources. And to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us, and for your comments and questions. It's been great. Okay,
Thanks,
well, thank you, and everyone have a good rest of your day.
Do you want me to stop the recording? Or are you going to do that from your host too?
Okay, I can stop the recording. Okay.
Yeah, just that caused no problems then, I think.
Okay.